Thank you very much, both Hassan and Abdulrahman. What we started out as the International Civil Society Project has been a wonderful dialogue that we've had to get to know a little bit more about the Muslim scholars in the Middle East and and if we could sort of bring that back to the U.S., you know, I'm kind of troubled by some of the things, and I think Hassan, you and I chatted a little bit about it beforehand. We have the lawsuit that the government prosecuted, the Holy Land Foundation case, which had a whole bunch of the Muslim Brotherhood activity documented for the last 50 years, which you know, they've been involved with they headed up the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, and the like. And you've seen, for example, how after 9/11 we had over 300 in the report. There were almost 300 references to Islam and terrorism and Muslims. And now, when you had the Fort Hood report, it's been taken out of the lexicon. It just doesn't exist. And you have kind of reference to, and maybe you could explain what civilization jihad is, and dawah and taqiyya. I mean, these are sort of troubling things that I don't think the American people really know. How do we respond to that here in America?
There is no question that there is indeed a number of radical Islamist movements that are intent in a way that's not achievable, at least in my opinion, in the opinion of many, that intent on engaging in civilizational warfare and ultimately in taking over the world. These are effectively people without a vision that pretend to have one, but that can cause mischief. We saw actually, we have the perfect example of the mischief that they can cause, not just in terms of killing people, but disrupting the whole world system. It is a group such as what I'm describing that effectively did commit the atrocities of 9/11. You do not need mass movements to do that. All what you need is a group of people who share the illusion and the delusion of being able to change the world to achieve utopia or dystopia, okay, and they can engage in it. I think it would be complacent on our part to ignore the existence of such groups and to not focus on the harmful effect that they have, not just on the societies that host them, such as the United States, but also on the societies that they originate from. In particular, I mentioned very briefly, and this is not the topic of today, but the fact that Islam as a religion has undergone over the past decades an internal transformation that is in many of its aspects problematic and that needs to be addressed as a result of the activism of the Islamists, who effectively have succeeded in more than one forum, in more than one way, of imposing a new reality that the true Islam is Islamist, which is not at all what used to be the case, which is not at all the way Islam is lived throughout the Muslim world. However, what we have today is an opportunity, a major opportunity for this to be corrected, because for the first time since the late 70s, and this is big, we're talking about 4 decades. For the first time since the late 70s, Islamism is no longer in the lead. What has happened now is proof positive that Islamism being in the lead was artificial, because these mass movements that we're witnessing are not driven by Islamism, are not responsive to Islamism, and in more ways than one, they are hostile to Islamism. Indeed, today, the Million Women March in Cairo did not happen. It was not a Million Women March. It was more like a few hundred women march, okay, in Cairo. However, the fact that women in Cairo today can go down to Maidan al-Tahrir, to the Liberation Square, and say, we demand not only equality, but a complete rejection of any law that discriminates against us, it shows you one thing. Fear is no longer the element of control in the region, and Islamists thrive on fear. I think it's a major opportunity. It's really, we have to, it's a very fine line between complacency, which we have to avoid at any cost, but also alarmism, which causes us to commit some of the mistakes that empower the enemy. The enemy is empowered when we think of it as being powerful.
Do we have to worry about taqiyya?
Taqiyya is not really, taqiyya is the concept that you are allowed to lie in order to achieve a certain good. This is not a concept that has resonance in Muslim societies throughout. The fact that a few individuals would take that notion and carry through with it is the reality, whether they call it taqiyya or not. But again, I think it's important, very important for us to keep a vigilant eye on all these groups and to dissect their ideology and to dissect their methodologies and ultimately to try to undo the harm that they're trying to do, but without distracting us from the notion that A, they are a marginal minority today, B, there are far more important developments that happen and we have to address these. Civil societies across the Middle East should be our main focus without us losing sight of the harm that these marginal groups can do.